Revered Spirit Ashes are all over Shadow the Erdtree DLC, and it helps out in a couple different ways. I'll be covering every single location of these Revered Spirit Ashes so that you can go and collect them if you haven't already inside the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. So, let's get into it. Now to quickly review what these Revered Spirit Ashes do, think of it as a boost to both your Horse Torrent and to all the Spirit Summons inside of the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. It's only going to affect everything inside of the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, not in the base game. You can use these at any site of grace that you come across as soon as you have enough to actually upgrade these Revered Spirit Ashes. In this video, I'll do my best to go in order of when you're going to find these Spirit Ashes, but we're going to jump from region to region. That being said, we're of course going to start at the Gravesite Plains, and the very first one you'll probably come across is going to be right near the main cross site of grace, just inside of one of the first legacy dungeons you'll enter into. This body is going to be very difficult to miss because it's going to be right as you enter into this location, sitting right in front of you, so this will be a very easy Revered Spirit Ash to find. Now as you start to progress through this legacy dungeon, you'll eventually come across the stage front site of grace, which is right before the main remembrance boss of this legacy dungeon. We're going to move a little farther south to where we're actually going to see a guy that has a glowing pot on his head. A very good rule of thumb throughout this video and anything that you're doing inside of Shadow of the Erdtree, if you see one of these guys that has a glowing pot on his head, definitely chase after him and knock him down, because he's more than likely going to have something as good as a Revered Spirit Ash inside of this pot. For this exact example, just kill this guy, and as soon as he drops the items inside of his body, inside of the pot, is going to be your next Revered Spirit Ash. Now moving back to the stage front side of grace, this next one's going to be very easy because as you're progressing your way up to this location, you're going to actually come across another one of those bodies that's just sitting on a pedestal, right next to a big tree with a couple enemies around it. This is another very easy Spirit Ash to collect. Now once you have defeated the remembrance boss in this area, you'll be able to go to the Theater of the Divine Beast side of grace, and just outside of this room where you progress to the upper levels of this legacy dungeon, you'll come across another body that you'll be able to pick up another very easy Spirit Ash. Now that we've covered the actual legacy dungeon in the Gravesite Plains, let's move around a little bit to other locations. Get your way over to the Cliff Road Terminus side of grace and over to this tiny little pond that's on the top of this cliffside. Getting here is very simple. From the main cross side of grace, simply follow up the cliffside till you see the Cliff Road Terminus, and when you get to the pond near this Cliff Road Terminus side of grace, you'll see another body that you can get the Spirit Ash from. Shifting a little more eastward past the main legacy dungeon, you'll eventually come across the abandoned Ailing Village, which is right next to the biggest bridge inside of this DLC. As you're progressing through this little village, you'll come across a small cliffside that you'll be able to see a couple fly enemies surrounding another one of the bodies that you can pick up another one of the Spirit Ashes from. As you're starting to guess, there's a big theme of finding these bodies and the Spirit Ashes. And this final location is no different. You're going to go across from where you see the Scorched Ruins, probably the very first named location you'll come across in the DLC when you first enter into this area. Make your way over to the cliffside edge where you're going to see another one of these bodies hanging out in a burned and destroyed hut, where you're going to very much so get a Revered Spirit Ash off of one of these bodies. Moving on to the Shadow Altus location, you want to make your way over to the Morth Ruins, which is not that difficult to get to as soon as you get to this particular region. Now we're going to go south of these ruins to find another body that you can get a Spirit Ash from. And truthfully, getting to this particular location is not that difficult. You just have to dodge a bunch of different enemies that are going to chase after you, but you will eventually, as you discover across these cliff sides, another burned down house with one of these bodies that you can pick up the Spirit Ash on. And as you progress through the Shadow Altus Plateau, you'll eventually come across the Bonnie Village, and near the Bonnie Village side of grace is where you can find another one of these bodies, somewhat hidden, because this was actually the last one that I found. So moving from that particular Bonnie Village side of grace, you'll see a little bit of a divot where a river used to be. Jump into this divot where the river is and go to the edge where it meets the cliffside, and you'll eventually see a small cave with the Spirit Ash. Moving on to the Shadowkeep, at this point we're going to make our way throughout the Shadowkeep until we get to the storehouse first floor site of grace. From there you want to follow my pathing because this location can get a little confusing. For this particular Spirit Ash, you want to parkour your way over to the giant lion looking statue that's in the middle of this room right in front of you as you go from the first floor site of grace. Now there is a simple way to get up here that I found by simply jumping over all these different bookcases and onto the actual ledges that holds this particular statue. Now once you're on the actual platform, the ledge, however you want to describe it, where this lion line is sitting, you just want to make your way to the top of this line where you see a purple item, and that's going to be your Spirit Ash. The next closest Spirit Ash is going to be near the storehouse 7th floor site of Grace, and this one's a slight bit more tricky, mainly because there is a switch inside of the storehouse that moves all of the hanging statues to a completely different location. Don't worry, to progress through the Shadowkeep to the top and bottom of this particular section of the Shadowkeep, you have to pull the lever nonetheless. So once you get to the 7th floor site of Grace, you should see this statue right next to this edge where you can get another purple item, which is another Spirit Ash. Now this next Spirit Ash is technically not part of the Shadowkeep, but you have to go through the Shadowkeep to a particular transportation coffin to get to the watering hole site of Grace. Now thankfully, whenever you do get to that particular site of Grace, it is literally straightforward to where you see another burned down house and another one of these statues that holds the Spirit Ash. Now before I move on to the 3 final locations that take a little bit of time to actually get to, I'm going to focus on the other locations where you can find the other random Spirit Ashes, in my opinion. You want to make your way to the Alot River Cave site of Grace, which is found and gotten to a bunch of random different ways. Now no matter how you get here, you'll be able to easily go and get a very easy Spirit Ash right next to this site of Grace. Next, we're going to be making our way over to the Village of Flies, a lovely location in Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. From this particular site of Grace, the Recluse's River downstream site of Grace, say that 5 times fast, you'll want to progress down the cliffside like you normally would, because this takes you down all the way to the Abyss section of the actual map of the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. But before you get down to the Abyss section, you'll come across a slightly open area with a bunch of these fly enemies. Stick to the right side cliff and you'll see an opening that takes you up the hill. Inside, you'll very quickly be told that you're in the Village of Flies, and as you explore this area, you'll find this statue with another revered Spirit Ash. Next, a very simple and easy one that you can get, which is just south of the Templetown Ruins, which is a random location that you come across as you explore throughout the entire Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. This is where you'll actually find this site of Grace, but as you get towards the waterfall on the edge of this location, you'll come across another burned down house with another revered Spirit Ash. Moving into the Rauh Ancient Ruins site of the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, you will very quickly come across the Viaduct Minor Tower site of Grace, where you'll then be easily entered into the first kind of labyrinth area, and as you descend into the first area, you'll actually see one of the guys that has a glowing pot on his head. Simply defeat him and you will get another revered Spirit Ash, which thankfully is very easy to get. Now this next location is another glowing pot guy, but he's a little bit more tricky and a lot more annoying to actually get to actually kill him to get the Spirit Ash. There are a couple different ways to actually get to the location I'm about to show you that brings you to an elevator. Now, of course, you could just explore this area to get to this location, but timing is really crucial, because if you know anything about the guys with the glowing pots on their head, as soon as they see you running towards them, they will run away and eventually disappear. So my general gist of actually getting to this location, however you can get there the fastest, is the best way in my opinion. I'm using the Spirit Spring because I had this unlocked and I found it easier for me, but once you get to the location where there's a bunch of blood fiends and there's a bunch of scorpions, make your way down another level and you will see that there is an elevator just waiting for you to press the button to elevate yourself to the top of this location. And once you get to the top of this elevator, keep in mind that you will be able to directly go across and hit the guy with the glowing pot on his head, but you will be attacked by all the other random enemies that are around this area. Of course, your focus is the guy with the pot on his head that drops another revered Spirit Ash. Now thankfully, the final Spirit Ash in this location is much easier than the previous one. Again, go back to the Rauh Ancient Ruins west site of Grace and simply go into the second layer of the labyrinth that takes you uphill, where there's a bunch of people just throwing down spells at you with the Scarlet Rot effects. Once you're up these stairs, make your way to the open area in the back where you can see a bunch of the sunlight, and you'll see another gazebo looking area with another one of the bodies that has another one of the Spirit Ashes, and good luck with the 2 heavy hitting warriors around this area. We're now going to shift over to Midra's Manse inside of the Abyss area of the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC, a completely optional area inside of the Shadow of the Erdtree DLC. Progress until you get to the library section of Midra's Manse, and you'll want to follow the pathing that I'm showing you, jumping across all these different bookshelves. I'm saying follow my pathing because there are a couple different paths you can take in this location, but this is actually the more main route that you'll come across, and the main enemy that you're going to come across and need to kill is actually going to be very easy to see as soon as you get to the top of the staircase that I'm running up right now. Now, I don't know the actual name of these very large enemies, but all you have to know is that you have to defeat this particular enemy in Midra's Manse to get another one of the Spirit Ashes. Now, the second and final Spirit Ash you can find in Midra's Manse is right next to the second floor chamber site of Grace, actually on top of a chandelier. Let me show you exactly what I'm talking about. So you're able to get to this particular location by simply progressing the main pathing inside of Midra's Manse, and you'll probably overlook this chandelier at first, but you'll want to jump onto it to get this other Spirit Ash. Now, the final few locations for these revered Spirit Ashes are going to be beside Enir-Ilim, and I'm probably butchering this final location's name, but when you get to the first rise site of Grace, you're going to want to take your pathing directly outside like you normally would to progress through this area normally. Now, as you progress up the stairs like you normally would to progress this area, you'll come across another one of those very large enemies that looks like one of the other smaller ones, us that shoots a bunch of different beams at you. This larger enemy in this area is who you want to defeat because they are going to hold another set of those spirit ashes that we're looking for. Now the second location to find another one of these revered spirit ashes is actually going to be 2, is from the first Rauh site of Grace once again, and following the same exact pathing that we just did for the other revered spirit ash from the larger enemy. However, this time we're not going to actually be fighting any enemy to destroy and actually get a revered spirit ash from them. We're going to go and find one of those statues that we haven't really touched in a long time in this video to actually get them. So when you get to the broken part of the bridge, simply drop down. You'll see a few of the fly enemies standing right in front of one of these statues where you can go and pick up 2 of the revered spirit ashes. Now the final spirit ash that you will come across in the entire game, if you follow this guide perfectly, you'll go to the Spiral Rauh site of Grace and follow the pathing that I'm showing you. That will of course be the normal pathing to progress you through this final area. So once again, follow my pathing as much as you want to, but as soon as you get to these rooftops, I highly recommend you take out that particular enemy so he doesn't attack you later on. And as you progress across the rooftops, be careful of all these different Gravesite birds that will attack you constantly and pretty quickly knock you down if you're not paying enough attention. Now once you land on this platform that shows a bunch of stairs that take you up further, get past the annoying Gravesite bird and there's going to be another body that you can get your final revered spirit ash from. Now I know that's a lot of different locations across a giant DLC that's practically just a whole new game in and of itself, but I hope you guys did find this location guide helpful. If you did, make sure to hit the like and subscribe button so I know that you did find it helpful, and let me know which one of these spirit ashes you found to be the most annoying. I definitely have a few in mind, but let me know what you guys think. Once again, I hope you guys did find this location guide helpful. I'll catch you in the next video.